Hello, Star Wars fans. This is Shorto. Today I'm going to be doing a different video instead of normal Galaxy of Heroes and Magic the Gathering that I do off and on. I'm going to be doing another kind of what if, thoughts, predictions video about the Fetts, Jango and Boba. Now, first off, I will say that a lot of the things with Jango Fett, I don't think they're going to probably plan on doing for a while because not a lot of it. I don't know if they're like afraid to touch the prequel stuff, even though they kind of have nodded to the prequels with the current new movies, the Star Wars Rebels. So we'll see what happens. So there's three ways to do this. I feel like two of the ways are probably better than the third. Of course, having like an animated series on the Fetts would be kind of cool, like the rise of the Fetts or something. Like season 1 and 2 is about Jango, and then season 3 and 4 is about Boba. They could do that, but I feel like the best way to bring it, add more story in and get more character development for Jango and Boba is to actually do it through a comic and or a book series. I feel like a book series would be the best way because there's just more info you could get in compared to a comic, but a comic is still a viable option to give us more images of certain characters. And so, like I said, it hints the fact I said and I feel like it's more of an and thing. And since it's an and thing, Disney would make more money off of it. So, but talking about it though, I feel like they really need to address Jango Fett. I feel like, and maybe it's a bit of fan service, but at the same time, he just, they both, at least in Legends, they were both Mandalorians, and doing something with a book or comic series would address the inclusion of Jango and Boba Fett, or at least Jango Fett as a Mandalorian. And then there's a way to correct around the quoted line from Olmec, whatever the stupid politician's name is in the Clone Wars. I don't care for him. He became a politician. He's not a true Mandalorian, even though he was Death Watch. Is to the fact that, there could be a few different meetings in the past, which makes it to where Olmec doesn't believe Jango is a Mandalorian. Of course, there's been talk in the Star Wars fan community and whatnot, that a lot of the different houses and clans of Mandalorians could always not view a certain Mandalorian as a Mandalorian, and that is definitely for truth during that Mandalorian Civil War they had in the Legends. When Jango Fett was against the Death Watch, Jango Fett lost his father. Excuse me, his adopted father, Jaster Muriel. Montrose was Montrose was kind of he was already a regular Mandalorian, a true Mandalorian, but then he went off. But I meant he just loses his Jaster Muriel to the war against Death Watch, and Death Watch is just that splinter group that doesn't want to let go of the old ways, while the true Mandalorians still, or have a new way, and it's a little more, a lot more fans were like with the non-Death Watch than the true Mandalorians of the Death Watch, and I would be one too. But there's always that a disagreement, like, oh, Jango Fett was Mandalorian, psh, yeah. Oh, I heard he became bounty hunter. Okay, well, he's just some common bounty hunter that somehow got that armor. He doesn't care about, so there could always be that addressed issue. Also, maybe even adding the fact that Jango meets the Olmec one way or another at one point in time when Olmec actually had armor on, and there was some sort of dispute, maybe Olmec caught the fact that something happened similar to the after the Mandalorian Civil War, where Jango loses a bunch of his Mandalorians to Jedi, because there was always talk in Clone Wars that during the episode where Sabine is training with the Darksaber, that they lost a war against the Jedi. Of course, a lot of the times, a lot of the wars were lost against the Jedi, but the Mandalorians kept fighting, kept going, kept trying to prove the difference. or prove that they can defeat the Jedi, and they defeated a lot. So, but, maybe, because I know Jango Fett, once he lost that battle on Gillerad, or I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name, I know. It's been a while since I've looked into his story and remembered the exact name of the planet that they were on. But Jango Fett and one other Mandalorian, which did die after Tyrannus captured him, was the only survivors of the Mandalorians, and they killed tons of Jedi, especially since Jango Fett was so talented that he took rocks in his hands, charged at Jedi, disarmed them, and beat them to crap, in a sense. So Jango Fett's really proficient in taking out Jedi, which is why he took out the Jedi in the Geonosis ring, Coleman Trebor. So, but, there could have been a line where, something like that happened, and he runs into Almec, and Almec disses him for it, and he said he would have done something better, and Jango shoots him. Not a killing shot, just shoots him. He knows that he's Death Watch because he still probably has his armor on, and of course Almec would probably be like, well, come on, finish it off, man. And Jango's like, you're not worth it. You're not worth a Mandalorian kill or whatever. The honor of the Mandalorian death. And so he left, and that's probably one reason why. And he finds out that Jango becomes a bounty hunter, and that would be the reason why he mentioned the line to Obi-Wan, because he just has a despise towards Jango Fett. So, that can easily be adjusted and corrected in the new canon. It would not hurt anything. Actually, a lot of fans would be picking up these books and or comics, and just, going, oh, good, this is awesome storytelling. So, and honestly, a good written book could be, like the first book would be about Jango Fett on Conquered Dawn, farming or what, something similar to Legends, and then how he becomes a Mandalorian. The second, and up into the point where he becomes, he loses his father, Jastermrail. Then the second book would be all the different conflicts. He has his Mandalore, or the leader of the Mandalorians at the time, up until, he loses that battle. And then the third book would be about bounty hunting. At least up until, or bounty hunting, and I felt like that would be the last book of that trilogy, and then it would start Boba Fett's trilogy, which would also include some of the stuff in the Clone Wars that we see, except in more detail, which would be a phenomenal thing, like more detail of him going to, once they take down the ship, what more he does. So always a book tells more than a movie or story, or a movie or an animated series, because movies and animated series have limited time compared to a book where they have just a good amount of pages. So the first book of Boba Fett could be, he was born, he was raised by Jango Fett. So like kind of the first part of the book still has some stuff about Jango Fett, but it also, tells stuff about Boba Fett, how he grows up, how he gets along with the clones and at least in Legends, I know he didn't get along with them very well. But at least not that well. And maybe he has at least a clone trooper buddy or two, but that grows older because clone troopers have the aging process increased on their bodies, and Boba Fett is just an unaltered clone. So maybe he would have a clone trooper friend that, dies in Geonosis or something. Maybe not. I don't know. Of course, Disney and whoever would be the author of these books, would be able to choose that. Anyways, going on for that. So the first book would be, him being raised on Kamino and being trained a bit by Jango Fett. Maybe some things in the Mandalorian ways, but mostly in bounty hunting, because he feels, and maybe he even tells a story to Jango Fett of what happens. And it would probably be, some summary, but the rest would be, you author or the reader would read the first 3 books before, book 4. So book 4 would definitely be about Boba Fett being raised up until the Geonosis ring. And then Boba Fett book 5 would be about after the Geonosis ring up until he gets to a certain age, probably close to being, I don't know, maybe about age 20, like up until A New Hope time frame. So, that between Clone Wars up to A New Hope, that's what happens. And then book 6 would be the remainder of it. So, they could do a lot with that. Boba Fett and maybe even book 6. And if they wanted to go to book 7, that would be fine, because I feel like they could still, a lot of fans want it, and because a lot of the fan service did happen the first time around, and Boba Fett was brought back. He got out of the Sarlacc pit. But then again, if you think about it, throwing a Mandalorian with tons of different equipment into a Sarlacc pit, and it takes 1,000 years to be digested. Of course, they probably only last probably a couple of weeks to a month or something before they die. But he's Mandalorian armor on, so it would take a while to digest that. Maybe not the undersuit part of it, but be thrown into a Sarlacc pit, you're going to find a way out. Like, you have explosives, you have blasters, you have blades, you have tranq darts and everything. You would try everything to get the heck out of there. I would. And a Mandalorian getting into a Sarlacc could easily, well, maybe not easily, but, have a chance of getting out versus just a random, Grimornian guard or a regular underworld criminal guard thrown into the pit. They would have probably zero of a chance versus, Boba Fett or a Mandalorian with a lot of tech thrown in. So having Boba Fett come back, and maybe the 7th book would be all the way up until, after the new trilogy, which probably would, if they brought it back right, they could make Boba Fett a technical ally to Leia, where, Han and Boba Fett's relationship kind of goes something similar to the Legends, where after a while, Boba Fett just doesn't go after Han Solo anymore. And, Han Solo, and him, they form a light friendship. And then when Boba Fett finds out the First Order killed Han Solo, even though it would have been Kylo, but, the First Order killed Han Solo, he's an ally to Leia. He's going to come assist. And then we could actually see some new Mandalorian ships, maybe even some Mandalorian ships from Legends, like the Crusader-class corvette and the Keldabi battle cruiser come in and be, a fleet that the First Order has to deal with. Because the First Order originally just, inspired through fear like Empire, and no one just didn't want to deal with it. But I feel like, why? Of course, so yeah, I don't know. Going that route, making Boba Fett a ally to Leia, well, it kind of makes sense, because he did, in Legends at least, he was an ally to the New Republic in Legends, where he helped take down Darth Caedus with Darth Caedus' sister. He helped train Darth Caedus. I mean, not Darth Caedus. Jaina Solo, which was Darth Caedus' sister. He trained Darth Caedus. Man, no wonder why he turned dark. No, anyways, he trained Jaina Solo to better fight against Darth Caedus. So there's a lot that they can do with the story of the Fetts. And, at least having 3 books with Jango Fett would be, fine. Of course, he would also be in book 4 of Jango, Jango Fett raises Boba Fett. And they could have some sort of, title for that. Now, going about authors, I would, of course, me instinctively would be saying to try for Disney and Lucasfilm and LucasArts and stuff, would try to go for Karen Traviss. I feel like she would be the best to tell the story of a lot of the Mandalorian stories, and even, Jango and Boba Fett. But of course, there are probably some other authors out there that would do a really good job as well. I don't know any of them, but the first one that comes to mind is Karen Traviss. Now, I know there was the fiasco of retconning all of Karen Travis's original work, and I'm sure Disney can find a way of allowing her to redo her work, put it into canon in a different way, similar but different. So there's ways of, trying to convince that, but I don't think I unfortunately don't think Karen Traviss would come back. But if it's possible, that'd be awesome. Because if you read the Republic Commando books, Jango Fett is in at least a couple of them, more mentioned than anything, and I feel like they were really good stories. She did really well with the Mandalorian culture. She did really well with the Mandalorian language, even. She did really well with, well, just anything Mandalorian, but even the clone commandos. She told great stories. Like, even if they decide to bring her in, they could also have her work on the Clone Commando series, some new Republic Commando series novels, and even, give us a story of who trained the Bad Batch or Clone Force 99. So there's a lot they could do, but I unfortunately don't think they'll be able to get Karen Traviss to come on and write the books, but you can never know. You can never know. But there are probably a good amount of authors out there that have read Karen Traviss's books and can get the idea, and at least maybe, go get some insight to some Mandalorian ways between what Dave Filoni's learned from George and all that. So, but that's kind of my thoughts on on the Fett line. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What would you like to see the Fett line, how it would be, brought about, how it could be fleshed out, whatever it would be, whatever the term. And, of course, a lot of fans would love Jango Fett and Boba Fett to be Mandalorian again. I'm 100% on the side of definitely Mandalorians. They just have that feel of Mandalorians. Yes, I know there are some bounty hunters that stole Mandalorian armor, and maybe they could, during Jango Fett's line or timeline, when he's, first being a bounty hunter, he runs into a couple of, maybe a duo of bounty hunters that are not Mandalorian. Like, Jango Fett starts talking to him in Mandoa, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "You stole Mandalorian armor." And then maybe he has a little bit of a grudge against that, takes them down. And then maybe Boba Fett still runs into Jodo Kast later on in this series of his side of the books. So, there's some great things about that. So they could always say, yes, that it is possible that Mandalorian armor could be stolen from non-Mandalorians, and they can be disguised as bounty hunters, bounty hunters disguising as Mandalorians, which it's a kind of a smart thing, but not at the same time, because some Mandalorians would kill you for it. But, at least it's smart on one side, where a lot of the targets you're fighting would probably not want to mess with a Mandalorian. So, but that's kind of my thoughts. I do appreciate you guys watching the video. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about having a Fett line put into comic and or book series. And yeah, again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.